Okay, so welcome to the Beta Podcast. I am joined here by Ambrose Cook and Timothy Amu. These guys are co-founders, along with Mitch, who we recorded with the other day, of Fanbytes. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves quickly and what they're up to at the moment.
Yeah, so... Alright, hi, I'm Ambrose and I'm a co-founder of Fanbytes, and this is my co-founder Tim. I guess I'm the operations guy at Fanbytes, and if you have two co-founders, Tim's sort of like the sales and marketing guy, whilst I'm like the operations guy who actually makes things work. Tim, who are you?
Who am I? So I am CEO. Which one am I looking at? That one, that one?
Either, it's up to you.
So I'm CEO, primarily tasked with things around sales, marketing, fundraising as well is a core function of mine. So that's what I do at Fanbytes.
Cool, so we're going to move on quickly and talk more about Fanbytes. So let's go and give the viewers a brief history on the timeline of Fanbytes so far. So what did happen? Where did you two meet and how did this sort of come about?
I was going to say the story that literally word for word I could tell I was going to say. It's actually quite crazy, my God.
I always tell a story about how we met. No, honestly, so initially I was the sort of guy who just really wanted to start a business. And I find myself in all these different entrepreneurship societies, leadership events and whatnot. And Tim, so I happened to actually be at one of these events, and I remember one guy asked me, who's your favourite guy at that event? And I said Tim. The reason why is because he actually had already done stuff. We were both 19, I think Tim might have been 18. I was 19. And Tim had already gone and sold a company before. And I found it quite inspiring. So, what happened is it was at this leadership event, and the speaker, a guy called Ken Olisa, said, take a good look to your left and a good look to your right, because you could be sitting next to your future business partner right now. I looked over to my left, and I literally thought, there's no way in hell that I'm working with that guy. But it turned out that there are so many things that we connect with, obviously one being the ambition to actually launch a business, stuff like our why, like the reason we were doing it was quite similar, and I guess since we're both Ghanaian, it kind of stroke
connection
there,
So on the day you just sat down and started chatting, and then how did it go from there? Did you start emailing each other, or what was it? You had a Skype call? How did it progress?
So what happened? I think when I met you, we kind of just clicked primarily just over just like random stuff, right? Like books, especially as well. What's the book? How to Win Friends and People.
Literally the first
Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, the first book I pretty much ever read.
Was that, and then what happened? And then I think I was working on Banzi then, like by myself, was I? Yeah. So actually, what was happening was when I was there, I was also working on this idea called Banzi, which is basically this like, what's the best way to explain Banzi? It was like such a bad idea that you couldn't describe it.
It's like unique experiences and rewards for the fans of these different artists.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the...
Music artists, right?
Music artists, yeah.
Music artists.
This is before social media and YouTubers.
Yeah. So like our whole thing, I mean, if I'm honest with you, that idea was kind of like really bad. Now the reason why that idea was really bad was because we're basically trying to like mimic another idea which is in America called Prizeo. And Prizeo was basically a site where it was like online raffles, which also raised money for charity, but then helped you to like get really cool experiences with your favorite like singers and artists, etc. So we just decided we'd do like pretty much that exact same thing, and I was like working on that. And during that period, I was like getting to know Ambrose. We're just like bouncing back ideas about just like anything and everything. That was pretty cool. And then I just hit him up on, was it on Facebook or something?
Yeah. I still have the text conversation we had.
What was the tone of that conversation?
It was very, I can't remember exactly, but it was like, Tim was like, he was kind of like trying to feel me out. So initially he was kind of like, he asked me, are you good at, this is the question he asked me. He said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at coding? And then I said, like, honestly, I'm not a coder. So I said, I think I gave myself like a 5 or something.
Yeah.
But then I gave...
Mad generous. This guy just doesn't even HTML.
Yeah. I gave him the caveat that I'm not a coder, but I'm willing to learn things, right? Then he was kind of like, let's meet at this place. So he was like, meet at this place at this time. And I was like, I had nothing to lose. I was like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you almost feel like you were pitching to him about yourself?
Yeah.
Like it's almost a job interview.
Yeah. Actually, funny enough, I actually almost introduced him to someone else. I actually offered to introduce him to someone else.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually offered to introduce him to a guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but at the time, he wasn't looking for that sort of person and whatnot, so I could have given away my position.
Yeah, so then we met, I was like, yo, like, work on this idea, it's going to be sick, it's going to be amazing. That idea was like completely rubbish.
So the dream.
like sold the dream so well, and I was like, yeah, come on board, you're a co-founder. And then that was working on Bandy, and then Bandy like completely flopped. Then we worked on like the early iterations of Fanbytes.
Just quickly before that, why did Bandsy fail? I mean, you've already said it's a bad idea, but like...
So...
Yeah.
So I can give kind of my opinion and you can give your opinion. Bandy failed for a whole host of reasons. The first reason was that, like, if you see the way I explained it earlier, it was like crowdfunding and celebrities and like blah 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 blah, right? It failed primarily because it wasn't solving any like real problem. Like we were basically it failed for like 3 reasons. The first one is we weren't solving like an actual problem for anyone, right? It was just like, oh, like fans want to be more engaged with like artists, but it's like in a world where you have direct communication with your fans on Instagram, Twitter, etc. Like it doesn't make sense. The second one was we didn't have a proper go-to-market strategy. So like we spend a bunch of time trying to email artists, and by artists I mean like Adele. We literally email
A-listers, right?
Yeah, we go like on Adele's site, like info@adele.com, and then like be upset that like Adele didn't respond, right? It's like we didn't have a proper go-to-market strategy, which I think is actually quite cool to any business. Like I feel like you need to build a distribution strategy first before you do anything.
But that naivety almost shaped the way that you sort of grow and distribute now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like that naivety caused us to like just like constantly say there was an idea in there, right? So eventually the big breakthrough with Bandy was when we raised money from like a guy called Nick Wheeler, the founder of Charles Tyrwhitt Shirts. And so, but the breakthrough was that we then decided actually these big artists don't need any more like monetization or whatever, but let's kind of focus on like YouTube artists. So that's when we did a thing with a guy called, well, I'm going to call him out because of rubbish, a guy called Jake West, who was this YouTuber who apparently had a massive audience, but it seemed like it was all paid.
It's mainly a Twitter guy, right? So
A Twitter guy, yeah.
90,000 followers on Twitter, which actually, to be fair, is not much, but at the time we thought we've hit an absolute gold mine.
Yeah.
What year was this as well, like, to give context?
That was early. That was like 2014.
Yeah, so 90,000 is still like a pretty significant amount. Right?
Yeah, but like they're all fake. Like it was like really bad. But anyway, so Ambrose can give his reasons as to why he thinks flop, but mine was just that we weren't actually solving any real problem, and we didn't have a core distribution strategy in place. But Ambrose can give his
I just echo Tim. I mean, I think the thing that Tim always says is you've got to be solving a fundamental problem rather than doing a nice to have. So if a fundamental problem might be something like there is no clean water in a city in Africa. That's like something that every single person is going to need. And nice to have is something like, oh, we've already got like some nice way of engaging with our fans, but this is like an extra cherry on top sort of thing. So I just echo what Tim says.
Most like core business problems either have to help people make more money, save more money, or
Save time.
And the thing was, like, to an Adele, she's in need of like making more money, right? She's in need of like saving more money, and it's not like she has an abundance of like time in the world, right? She has like personal assistants and everything for her. So yeah, that was pretty much like the thesis behind why I think it completely failed.
Awesome, and then that led to the pivot for your next sort of step
Yeah, I think one thing to remember is also that these failures all gave us our successes. Because if you really think about it,
Yeah.
like we've rotated business models a number of times, and you can literally say like each time we rotated business models, we failed a business. But simultaneously, each time we pivoted, our business model's gotten stronger and stronger, and still brought in more and more revenue. So it's almost like one failure brings us to the next success. Maybe what we're doing right now is a failure, but it's going to bring us to the next success. But either way, we're still going to, one, learn a lot of things that we can take to the next path, and two, gain traction in whatever we're doing. So,
yeah, agreed. And then went on to the next part was when we, what was it? It was when we basically realized that like artists didn't actually need what we were doing at all. And then it was like perhaps the people like lower down needed it, so perhaps like the next Adele's, right? So the people just on the cusp. And at that point, I don't think we classified them as like influencers. We just called them like, I don't know what we called them, but we just called them like online singers or something, right? And then it was from there that we then said, actually, the key problem is not engagement with them. The key problem is actually like monetizing that audience. So then we said we are gonna like set out and build something which helps them like connect with brands in order to like monetize their audience, specifically on YouTube.
So then the focus, whilst we were doing that, what we realized is, so we kind of almost stumbled into getting our first brand deal, which was I think Go8 when they paid us like 150 quid.
No, it's like 300 quid, mate. Get around.
So wait, did you say Go8?
Go8,
the zip line. Yeah.
And what we did actually initially, we did the whole.
That wasn't our first guy.
The first guy was like Piper or something.
Yeah, Drew Piper or something. Drew Piper, something Piper.
Yeah, but either way, when it got to the Go8 one, we actually customized. We did things like we customized the whole like landing page with them in their skin, and we did 2 branded videos for them, and we didn't charge them for that initially. Like, we weren't going to charge them, but what we then realized, that was like the eureka moment for us, because it was like, hold on a second, the person we're not trying to solve a problem for here isn't the influencer, it's actually the brand. The brand wants a way to engage with the millennials, and the YouTubers and the influencers are a platform or a medium through which they can do that.
Yeah, so like, to paint a picture, we basically come from saying we want to create something where fans can, artists can engage with their fans. Then and the actual business model there was basically that fans will pay for like merchandise from their favorite artist, and then that merchandise will count as like points in order to enter into a competition where one lucky person will then like win the experience to hang out with that artist. So it could be like, let's like pick Adele. It could be Adele will come and sing in your living room, but the way you enter into that competition is you buy like Adele like
a signed album or something like that.
A signed album that give you like 100 points into the so we then decided to do that exact same thing with YouTubers. And then the exact thing that Ambrose was saying is this idea that like at that point the same business model was let the fans pay in order to enter into the competition. Until then we thought about it, and again this goes back to we initially realized that like you have to solve a problem, and people pay you for the problem that you're solving, right? So if the fans are paying, it's not like they have a problem with engaging with the YouTuber. They can like comment on their pics and all that stuff. Like they don't have a problem. With like that Go8 thing, the whole idea was like fans would pay to get entries into a competition, which would then help them to like have this experience, which was with YouTuber and them to go to Go8. But then it was like actually the person who's getting the most value out of that is Go8. Why are we not charging Go8? Right, so that was then like, as Ambrose was saying, that was when like the flip happened, when it was like, actually, wait, what? Like, Go8, you should be paid, and then paid, and but Go8 wasn't our first one in that. I think our first one was like, Fuelify.
Oh, Fuelify, that was the first basically proper YouTube brand. Yeah, that was literally saying to one influencer. We almost had to like an agent
Yeah.
then. So we had a few influencers we said we'd manage, and then we had one influencer record one video for one brand, and that was almost like our dipping our toe in the water to see like how it would respond. And that's when we knew, okay, this is something that will work. Let's try and scale this and get a network of influencers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Go Ape was at that point our biggest, was it like 300 quid?
Yeah.
And I remember I actually like posted on LinkedIn about this yesterday, right? But like Go Ape, it was like, whoa, it was like 300 quid. Because literally, I was in my house and I was talking to the marketing manager of Go Ape, and he was like, oh, so how much is it going to cost? And I was like, I gotta go for it. I was like £300. And then he was like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, and like,
He was probably laughing like,
Yeah.
too, like,
stupid kids. Then I called Ambrose. I was like, yo, 300. He was like, yeah. And it's so silly, right? Because like that same thing would go for like 10 times that, right?
Yeah.
Like even more, right? We're basically creating the whole experience, like all that stuff. But you know, like
That's the difficulty when you're starting out though, pricing. You don't know how much to price your work and attention, right?
yeah, but like if I was starting again, what I would do would actually be to well, firstly I'd standardize my pricing like right from the off.
Yeah.
So there's no like bargaining. Like right now, FanRight just like set pricing for everything, and I just like do that so people just like pick. But that's a whole different.
Yeah. Awesome. So you're into sort of YouTube influencers at the moment, and then when's the next pivot? Is it towards Snapchat, or are you venturing towards this on the timeline?
Yeah, so I guess we experimented with YouTube a bit. We had one or two different ways of doing it. First was basically trying to build a network of these. We can do this at scale. But second was actually trying to turn it almost into like a SaaS product. Where brands would actually subscribe to our platform and access almost like a marketplace of influencers.
Yeah.
Experimented with both of those. And I think ultimately, when it came to, because obviously now we're doing Snapchat, when it came to pivoting to Snapchat, it was just a realization that whilst we were actually kind of one of the early players in the market, it was almost like we didn't move fast enough. So, and I guess it's probably going to be one of your questions coming up, but one of the reasons in fact, pretty much the only reason we ever raised money is just because we know we've got something which works and we want to scale it quicker.
Yeah.
So we want to move more quickly. And I think for people who are really young and ambitious and just want to get their first venture scaled, that's kind of like been one of our aims, is to grow quickly.
So I suppose we can pick up on that now, because I was going to bring it up later, but about fundraising. And also not necessarily just raising money for your business, but the contacts that have been made through your fundraising and your journey of it. What's sort of your experiences of fundraising? How should someone, let's say a uni student who's in your similar positions just a few years ago, go about funding? What sort of place should they get funding? Should it be an accelerator, angel investors? And obviously it's incredibly situational, but just if you have any advice for that.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Well, I think just kind of two parts to this. One is like why do you get the funding, and two is where do you get it from. And I think one thing I realized is, so firstly between us two, we always kind of split it as Tim would always like lead the fundraising. Apart from initially, we'd always go to the meetings together. But Tim would primarily lead the funding, and then I'd like to create like the financial cash flow forecast so we can present that to the investors, and then explain to them why we actually need the funding, because that's important. And initially, so Tim had some good connections who could connect us to investors. But one thing that Tim did a lot of initially was literally just reach out on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So he would literally cold email people who would be in the right area, so like a marketing guy with a lot of money, I guess, and get a meeting with them. Because then what happens is, when you go to the investor and you say you've got this thing, they'll either be interested in speaking to you more, or they'll probably introduce you to someone else who might be interested. So that's a good way of kind of like getting a foot through the door.
So, carry on.
So,
yeah.
Then the other thing I was going to say is, just kind of like a tangent, but anyway, I feel like you should, like, even if you weren't going to raise money, you should be speaking to investors, because, again, one or two things will happen. They'll either say, I really, really like your idea, here's some money. Or they'll say, if you can change these 3 things about your business, then I'll give you some money. So the point is, it's almost like a compass which will show you the right things that you need to be working on in order to make something successful. Because investors have so much experience seeing successful startups and they know what's going to work. So it's a good way of guessing, almost like free advice.
Yeah, sorry, it's just we're trying to hire someone in marketing, and I've now said I'm going to meet her tomorrow, and I'm just giving her an exercise to do.
It's cool.
Sorry.
No, that's
We're
fine.
taking a podcast as well. Is he in the shot? You're in the shot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think for fundraising, a number of things. So the first thing is I think you should always fundraise off traction. So we've been through like 4 rounds, but really like 2 like meaningful ones. And in all of them, I basically based the story. I basically told the story of like. So, trying to like figure out the like easiest ways to say this, but every time I went out to fundraise, you never try and sell like hope in a fundraise. You always try and sell like numbers in a fundraise, right? You always try and say, okay, with, you know, like let's say it's like with 50 grand, we were able to do this. Therefore, logically, with 500 grand, we'll be able to like 10x that. And these are like the reasons why I think that we actually can, right? And like that's primarily that's pretty much what fundraising is on, right? A lot of people talk about like, oh, how do I get investors? And they always try and think about it at like the early parts, right? It's like, I have an idea, how do I get investors? But I keep saying actually that's like a really stupid thing, because investors are people who have money who are seeking a return. Right? So I actually have a really good friend who I met yesterday, and we're doing a few things together. He sold his previous company to so I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but he basically sold his like previous company. Right?
Yeah.
And so he, for his new company that he started, which is fairly similar to his old company, he was able to raise 1.25 million just quickly. But the reason why is because he didn't need to have necessarily like traction in that business, because he had traction from his old business, right? So he could then tell investors, hey, I've done this in the past. Based off that, if you give me 1.25 million, I can do this, right? And so that to me seems to be the like foundation of investing, of like fundraising, is to get some kind of like traction, which you can then logically prove that by pouring more money on it would help the investor get a return. Like for too many times I see people like trying to sell hope, like trying to like sell the idea, but it's like, yeah, you could potentially do that in like some places, right? So I know a friend who raised like 800 grand in like Dubai, because those guys would just like give you money if they like you, right? But like in the UK, it's primarily based off like financial sense, like. So yeah, has this company proved this? Yes. Can I see a logical way that by giving them this money they're going to increase it? Yes. Okay, fine. I'll give them money. That to me is pretty much like the foundation of like fundraising.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, in our very first fundraiser that we did, it was really small, but what we actually did is at the start, in the very first meeting we had with the investor, we showed him the campaign that we were going to do with this Jake West guy. And showed him that we were about to launch it. And then the plan was to meet him again in 2 weeks to show how it had done. And we kind of said, oh, it's going to go amazing, we'll hit this. And we didn't hit our targets at all, but the point is we showed some traction, and they were motivated by that. So
Or like in our last fundraise, what I basically said was, hey, we've been able to show this works with all the record labels. So at that point, I basically said, forget everyone else. We're just gonna focus on these 3 guys: Warner, Universal, and Sony. When we get them, we're then gonna fundraise, because now that's a story you can tell and say, this worked really well in music. We're not gonna do it in like film and gaming and FMCG and fashion and blah blah blah, right? And now, like, if we do go and fundraise again, the story is going to be, well, no, we took this amount of money, we did it in like this fashion, we're now going to scale it, right? So, like, when you kind of, do everything with like logic, just say like, follow this logical flow, it always works because, fundamentally, the key thing when you're raising money is you're not competing with, like, you're competing with other startups, but you're actually competing with like any other possible vehicle that an investor can put their money in to get a return, right? Yeah. It could be gold, it could be bonds, it could be anything, right? Now, so really, your thing is not to like convince the investor about your startup. Your thing is actually to convince the investor that you are going to give a higher return than like any other investment vehicle there. And like the easiest way to do that is to just make it seem almost like the easiest possible bet ever. Like with all our new investors in the last round, I met them and within the first like 30 minutes they said yeah. Well, in fact, even less. Like someone like Gianluca was just like, yeah, cool. Like, just like super quick. Because I literally like laid down the foundation.